Hello and welcome. This is Rooflemonger, my friends. Today I want to talk about a special subject, something I had on the mind recently. I want to talk about a certain guest character in fighting games, one of the greatest or perhaps most infamous appearances ever. And that is of Yoda in Soul Calibur 4. So Soul Calibur 4 had Yoda on Xbox 360, Darth Vader on PlayStation 3. And their appearances were a very, very big deal. To financial success, like Soul Calibur 4 sold many millions of copies. It did very well because these guests were in the game, which, is the point of the guest character, right? To bring in people that might not otherwise have played the game. And Soul Calibur in particular is a master of this idea, right? We have Link, famously in the GameCube version of Soul Calibur 2. Spawn was in the Xbox version, and later editions we have like Ezio in Soul Calibur 5, Geralt and 2B in Soul Calibur 6. Like, hey, Soul Calibur loves the guests, and for good reason, does well by them. And usually the guest is a pretty good addition to the game, right? They'll bring in a very unique flavor of gameplay you won't find in the base roster of a game. Just a little bit of fun, just to spice things up. And here's the thing about Yoda in particular. Yoda is, and I got no nice way to dress this up, one of the greatest trash fires of fighting game design ever put to a video game. I like Yoda. He's a cool little green guy, but he sucks in this game, man. Because, we're going to get into it, and that's kind of the point of the video, I guess. But here I am, old man recently thinking about Yoda, and I was thinking Soul Calibur 4, that's just the other week ago. And no, Soul Calibur 4 is almost 20 years old now. So a lot of you don't know the story of Yoda's depravity, or maybe you heard the story, but you don't got the full picture. So let's rectify that. Let's deep dive into Yoda. So just a note on the Star Wars characters themselves, besides Yoda. So we had Darth Vader, and we also had the Apprentice, and they do cool Star Wars things. They had a whole Star Wars themed stage. This stage was very infamous at the time because it was trivial to ring people out at basically the start of the round. Certain characters like Hilda could basically ring you out from the actual start of the round. But it did look cool, so we sort of forgave it at the time, right? And of course, the actual characters, they had force powers. And force powers are sort of like EX. You had your little force meter below your health bar, and you could use the force meter to do like cool enhanced things. I love this move for Vader is always so sick. Some of these powers could be really interesting too, like Vader could control your wake up, right? He could just force stand you, which is a very good use of bar. And if you're going crazy on it, he can just whip you around, or just outright get turbo launchers on you, right? There's some interesting stuff, right? So the Vader stuff, for the most part, I think everyone liked Vader. He was a great addition to the game, unlike Yoda. Now Yoda, so out of the gate, he's a little slow, right? And forget being a little slow, you might notice he's not exactly standard fighting game character size. So extra small characters these days we take to calling rats. And Yoda is the rat to end all rats. Let's talk some Soul Calibur 101. So Soul Calibur, right? A very movement heavy game. It's core to the design. And you have stuff like vertical attacks and horizontal attacks. So vertical attacks you beat by 8-way run. You just step in or out of the background. And horizontal attacks you beat by ducking or low profiling or something of the sort. And of course you can just block. And if someone just blocks, you throw them. Sure enough. And maybe you're like me and you're a little too obsessed with getting those command grabs, right? You want to land them. It's really part of the fun of the game, right? Then here's all these interactions versus Yoda. So remember that bit how Yoda is extra little, right? So Yoda basically cannot be hit by horizontal attacks at all, which poses a little bit of a balance problem, right? Where half of your moves do not work. Sometimes if you catch them at very weird angles with very specific moves, you might catch them, but otherwise, you're SOL, you're out of luck, right? And of course, forget just horizontal attacks, right? B attacks can easily dismiss them as well if the hitbox is too high. So a lot just doesn't work on him unless it's a mid or a low that scrapes the ground. And he can't be thrown at all. It just don't work. So there we go. Summon Suffering, right? iconic grab of the game over his head. And even if it can't connect, it just like pats him on the head. That's it. That's all you get. You cannot throw this character. So he's immune to like, I would say at least half of the game's moves and cannot be thrown. So I don't really need to sell you on why that could be a problem, right? So now you're probably thinking, well, wait, well, then he's got to be the best character in the game if like all this is the case. No, he still sucks that bad that he's not a good character. So let's talk about that. So Yoda, we already mentioned like Yoda, not exactly a fast boy. The thing is, he can be fast when he wants to be. Look at this. He can flip like crazy, like he's in an indie wrestling federation. That's how much this boy can flip. In fact, a lot of his basic attacks, like this is AA, this is BB, like a lot of his basic stuff leave him flipping around and airborne. That's not a benefit. So say I'm doing all this flipping around, right? What if the opponent hits you? You count as airborne. Like, you will be juggled. It's not just getting hit by the hit, right? Like, they can keep comboing you after the fact just for doing your basic strings. And almost all your basic strings will leave you airborne, and his whole offense flow is airborne. Like, the stuff he can do on the ground, the range is not amazing, as you can see. He's not much of a melee combatant, right? Like, he's got to be in your face doing flips all over the place. And that don't work in your favor. Not the least of which, you know, while you're doing flips over the place, you might flip yourself out of the friggin' ring. So here I am about to flip like crazy, right? And whoops, we're out of there. You literally can just sidestep out of the way and Yoda will fling himself off the edge of the ring like he's a friggin' lemming or something. Like, your destiny is not in your hands when you're doing moves like this. Because if you get counter hit, you are just juggled. They get a full combo, or at least they'll get a partial combo. They'll certainly get more than like a basic strike will. Or you just might go over the friggin' edge like a dang dummy, right? This don't work in your favor. And it's exacerbated by his force powers. So Vader can get extra hits, he can force stand you, all that kind of stuff, right? Yoda's stuff is be in the air more than you already were. Like, he's got like weird dive kicks. He can flip to the left or right. Like, this is how he burns his force bar. And admittedly, you get cool things like you can get like little side launchers. If he's in the air, he can just kind of keep attacking you over and over. Like, the offense can keep flowing, right? This is what you're burning the force bar on. But the more you're airborne, the more dangerous it gets for you. Everything he does that's like remotely cool is airborne to some degree. And in a game like Soul Calibur, that don't work in your favor. This isn't Marvel. This ain't no versus game, right? Like, you don't want to be in the air in Soul Calibur. Like, it's not to say he can't do really cool things. Like, he has a unique force parry as well, right? For his gauge. And if you get it, like, you can just whip people around and stuff, and that's really cool. But it is one of the pinnacles of frustrating game design. That the base movement of Yoda is god-awful. The advanced movement, you're taking your life in your hand by doing anything kind of fancy, right? Your offense is short range and unsatisfying, because like if I was literally point blank, I get hit with a lot of these moves, but like even like a little distance away, like nothing's gonna connect. And then you gotta take your opponent in the matter, right? Like, you got a weird offense, and maybe you'll have a lot of fun with that, right? Like, if you like weird trolly characters, Yoda's one of the all-timers. But the fact that like half the characters' moves in the game across the roster won't work on him, basic throws, part of the core offense flow of any fighting game for the most part is you gotta land the throw, right? It doesn't work against Yoda. Like, you are losing out a lot just by fighting him. You're not playing the same game. There are characters in the grand history of fighting games that I could say are somewhat similar to a degree, like say Taka Arashi from Virtua Fighter, and specifically his Virtua Fighter 5 appearance. So he's bigger and he has a different rule set. Things don't juggle him the same as everybody else. Moves completely reanimate against him. But Yoda is 2,000 steps beyond that. Some other things to note too, just because it's a funny matchup, Amy. So Amy was a playable character in Soul Calibur 4, and she's small compared to the rest of the roster. Obviously not small compared to Yoda, but she was actually so small that a lot of Yoda's height advantages actually didn't work against her because she was lower to the ground. So now her horizontal attacks could hit Yoda. And that means basically most of her moveset worked against Yoda, unlike the rest of the cast. So I've never seen this like in a competitive setting. I gotta imagine this is a nightmare match for Yoda, just because she can actually just do her stuff against him, and it, for the most part, just actually works. I always thought that in particular was kind of funny. Although she still can't throw him. She just like punches him in the head, just like everybody else. So suffice it to say, as a guest character in a major fighting game, Yoda was very, very strange. He's very well done. Like the model's incredible. The effects are incredible. All the Star Wars sound effects at a Star Wars stage, had a lot of the Star Wars music. That's all there. And that's all very good and very well done. So it's not a lack of quality from like a production standpoint, just a character design standpoint. Like, we've had silly joke characters before in fighting games. That in and of itself is nothing new. But Yoda is not presented as a joke is the thing. Like, if you got the 360 version of the game, he's on the front of the box. He's here to sell the game to you. Like, you're enticed to buy the game because Yoda's in the game. And if you got a good enough guest, you should do that. They should be on the front of the box. And it's not to say he's not fun. Like, he's a blast if you want to screw around. He's very fun in that way. But if you want to look at it in kind of competitive way, right? Yoda just ain't it. You look at any other guest character in any other fighting game throughout basically the history of fighting games, especially the ones that are either entice you to buy the game by being on the box art or DLC or whatever. Maybe they're top tier, maybe they're bottom tier, but they're not just outright jokes that play a completely separate game than the base actual game. And yet, that's exactly what Yoda is. Now, once again, it was a success. Soul Calibur 4 sold a lot of copies. I don't got the data in front of me in a moment here, but I think it might actually even outsold Soul Calibur 2. So taking mega popular characters, putting them on the box, that stuff works, regardless of how good the actual characters may be. Vader was definitely a better fighting game character than Yoda was, at minimum. But I figure now, Soul Calibur 4, almost 20 years old. Time flies, right? Maybe you've heard about Yoda and his adventures in Soul Calibur, but maybe you didn't know the whole story. So I figure in this video here, just to give you an idea of what's up. Soul Calibur will return one day. I don't know what day that'll be, but it'll return one day. And surely there's going to be a new hot guest character at the forefront of it, because that's how Soul Calibur works. But what that character won't be, whoever that character may be, is they won't be 2 feet tall, can barely move, and the rest of the cast can barely interact with them. That's a legacy Yoda is going to have all to himself, I would say, kind of hopefully for the rest of time. At the time, it was certainly fun to mess around with your friends with Yoda and get frustrated, both as the enemy, you know, not being able to hit Yoda with half their moves, and you as Yoda accidentally ringing yourself out all the time. The Yoda experiment was a great experiment, but probably for the best that we never actually do that again. But that's just a little bit of fighting game history for you. And if you didn't know, now you know. And that said, my friends, that is it for me, and that's it for the video. So thank you very much for watching. Hope this video has found you well, and go out and play some fighting games.
This is the love making.